good.
You can see here from the view on the boat, look at this. Voila! Oh my lord. And the funnest part is just around here, right here. Here's my room. This is the room. This is where I'm going to be sleeping. And let's make sure that everything arrived intact. A couple of reasons for the snowboard bag. First off, the easel and the tripod are a fair bit longer than a regular bag, so although I don't need the entire length of the snowboard bag, it's kind of necessary to get it all in there nice and compact. It's Shelby's bag, so thanks for donating it, and the plates, the paint, a few bits of clothes. I was on a weight limit, so that was tough, and a box carrying all the little goodies. The easel, yeah. It's made it in one piece. That's what I was really hoping for. That's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay, fantastic. Easel is fine. And here is the other part of the easel. Really worried about this part breaking because it's just two Phillips head screws in there. So it was high risk, but it seems completely safe. So that's fantastic. The other little bits and pieces was a drop cloth, just in case the captain didn't want my paint all over his boat. That is our canvas. Did this survive the trip? I was definitely nervous that although I packed this canvas with a ton of bubble wrap and covered it with fragile stickers, that somewhere between the multiple car rides, bus rides, 2 boat rides, and plane flight to the other side of the country, that perhaps it got a little bit bumped and damaged. So I couldn't check it because during the trip, it might actually ruin the protective packaging I'd put on it. But now that I'm at the destination on the boat in the Doubtful Sound, it's my chance to actually open it up and have a little look-see. You might have seen those little corners come out too. I put some extra foam padding on the corners because I felt like that might be a danger point. One thing I wasn't prepared for, because it's all soft packaging, if it did get dropped, which is obviously one of the likely options, the whole thing would have the possibility of turning into a parallelogram. Now, we avoided that only because I put the masonite board inside it, which would actually stop that bending motion from occurring. But if it was just the frame, massive threat. All corners and crevasses checked. It's in perfect condition and it's ready to paint. That's exciting. At this point in time, I've Googled the Doubtful Sound. I've already got an idea in my head of what I think I might want to create, but actually coming here, breathing it in, seeing the water, seeing the land, seeing the sky, your opinions change. And so rather than starting with the project off the bat, I just took some time to take this place in and make sure my opinions on it were correct. And they changed. They changed drastically. Whereas originally I thought the most important part was the mountains, I was enamored with the water and actually how I appreciated the mountains mainly from that water. You'll see me laughing there with the team because when I actually came to start painting on the first day, it was getting closer to sunset. And that's because I really wanted to take that time to take the place in. And it was worthwhile because the colours at this time were phenomenal. The cloud coming out, the sun coming out from behind that cloud and slamming the environment with warm hues. Well worth waiting for. You may notice I glanced down at a smaller image. I've got one of the Doubtful Sounds. I had a few shots that I was working to. I've chosen this one, and the most important thing about this image is it's black and white. The reason why that's the case is I want the colours of this actual location to be what inspires this image and the composition to be correct. Since the boat's always moving and I want that, the composition's hard to grab. So, black and white image to paint from and the colours of the environment to make it. The first thing you notice, the very first thing, is that the place is green, the place is blue, but my artist eye kicked in and I couldn't help but to see these colours in the background, these more subtle hues that might be missed, and I thought maybe we can make a work that's green and blue. But I feel like every photographer and camera captures that so wonderfully. So let's see if we can get something a little bit different. And so that's the reason why I stayed for longer on day one, and I started to see these more subtle colours. In this case, these deeper purples. You can see them in the rocks right there, actually, tucked behind those greys. Do you spot them? At about this time, the boat was actually heading out towards the Tasman Sea, and I had to pause and run the canvas indoors because the wind and the waves got absolutely crazy. So I'm actually surprised for this little bit of filming that the tripod the phone's on stayed standing, because it should have fallen over. You'll actually see someone walk in front of it shortly, and they come around and hold it for me because they were concerned that the actual tripod was going to go overboard. And if it did, that would not only be the end of filming, but the end of the whole project, because my filming device would be gone. So I'm actually kind of lucky that didn't happen, but this is just showing the power of the elements in a place like this. And if you are going to paint on top of a boat deck, have a plan, and when the weather's good and the sun's out, take the opportunity to paint. So we pack away for now, but day 2 inbound, and when day 2 comes, we're going to smash more paint on it. But for now, for me, I get to rest. The boat's rocking, the wind's blowing. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to have a hot chocolate or maybe a coffee and socialise with some of the people on the boat. A lot of people have been watching and they've got a lot of questions, so time to answer them. Here's the up close at the moment. You can still see a lot of those black marks, and I want to retain some of them in the final work, but you can see the sloshy nature of these brush strokes and how these colours are just really vivid. The reds were crazy. The more I added, the more I saw, and it took this work in a really interesting direction. It's day 2, and it's the only full day I have from dawn till dusk, and you can see here at the crack of dawn, the water's perfectly flat. A perfect time to paint and capture those reflections. The water itself, though, when there's a little bit of wind, gets those teeny tiny little textural ripples in there. So it's not a perfect reflection, but that's the beauty behind it. There's more detail, more character, and more life in that. So you can see up close, the detail has been going into the reflection. The mountains themselves, I've kept them fairly simple to sort of accentuate that volume more. But that reflection, that's where I feel the mountains truly speak. And by that comparison, where they gain most of their magnificence and most of their volume. So in the canvas we're working on here, you'll notice over 50% of it got donated to the water. And the mountains still look huge. Well, how can that be? I tried to do that by the water coming the whole way to your feet, the ripples getting bigger to the point that you're actually standing at the foot of the image. And if you could, you would walk out into it. Hours ticked by and layers landed. You can see now the sun's moved in front of me there. So the canvas is a little bit overcast, but you can still see the beauty of this place. And as we keep landing layers, the reflections keep changing, the colours keep changing. Like at this moment right now, I can see a whole bunch of subtle steely blues. I can still see those purples tucked in the background. I can see ultramarine blue sitting everywhere on this landscape, which is such a raw, powerful blue. You know, it's so strong. Ultramarine blue actually means in Latin, beyond sea. Ultra for beyond, sea, marine. And what that basically means is back when they invented this pigment, they thought it's so beautiful, it's more than what the ocean can carry. Well, I'm in this place here, I don't think it's more than the place, but it definitely adds that special something. Now, for those with a watchful eye, you will notice there's a white and green container below the canvas. What is that? Well, I talked with a team and they said they'd have a weight ready for me when I got on the boat, because I didn't want to carry down a weight all the way from Auckland to the other side of New Zealand. Now, the weight they had came from the kitchen. It's a 5-litre can of olive oil, cooking oil. So I hope the chefs didn't need it on this trip, but I certainly did to hold down the easel. So a couple of the bungees go around the actual railing, around the edge, but to hold the canvas down just a little more weight in case there is a gust. It probably wouldn't hold it for a big gust, but for small to medium, I get a moment to catch it before it rips that whole container and the canvas overboard. And honestly, with the risk factor of possibly losing the entire piece of artwork, any steps you can take are good steps. It's about this stage, at about 3 p.m. on the second day, that I start feeling really intelligent for purchasing the scarf and the hat. The gloves were a great buy too, just in case, but honestly, when I had them in my hand, it actually stopped me from moving my hand so much. And so my fingertips would get really cold, but the part of my hand I wasn't using would be warm. As an artist, this strikes me as pointless, so I went glove free and just made sure I was moving my hand lots and keeping that perk in my step to make sure my fingers didn't get too cold. If they did, I wouldn't be able to land very good brush strokes. They'd seem more mechanical, less fiery, less perky, so... But make no mistake, this place is cold, and I'm in love with the scarf. It's funky, and it bounces around while I paint, so it reminds me to keep moving. I also realised, at no intelligence of my own, that the only pair of jeans I brought down are actually double lined, so they're extra good for the cold. Go figure. Lucky me. And now for this shot here, it's a good time to talk about the sky. You'll notice that this is a good matchup here. There's always a few clouds around and the sun comes in and out of them, but it always has this beautiful baby blue colour shining through it. I added a bit of teal and a bit of turquoise in there just to add this fiery connection from the sky to the reflections in the water. And you'll notice that. You'll see the connection between that and this landscape behind me right now. And in the picture, everywhere where you see that turquoise, that teal and that baby blue in those reflections, that's coming from the sky, inspired by the sky. We did use blues and we did use greens, but they feel more like a highlight, trim or afterthought compared to the potency of those reds and purples and pinks. And I like that. It gets reality in the scene, but doesn't lose the imagination. That's always a dance that you play. You're asking yourself, how much realism do I want? How much of the exact facts or details do I have to have in this so you know where the place is? Because every time you add in details and realism and facts, it's at the cost of a little bit of spontaneity. So you're constantly doing this seesaw between what do I want you to feel and what do we need to see? Because you definitely need an element of it to be seen. You need mountains, you need reflections, you need facts, light and shadow, form. Yeah, I get that. But also, what do you want the person to feel? Because to capture feeling, we need to obscure reality a little bit. That expressionism or the wily impressionist element of it, that's where the colour comes in. That's where those dancing hues allow us to feel the place. It has a spiritual element to it. It has this kaleidoscope of colour, like we are having an experience in this place. It's changing us. It's not just water and earth. It's something more than that. It's alive. I always feel like when you put pink into mountains, they get this life to them. It feels like they breathe. This painting has a little Easter egg built into it, a figurative one. Now the boat I'm on is ultramarine blue. The whole thing's painted with that beautiful deep blue and has a mast that goes the whole way into the sky and almost feels like part of the landscape. Now, if you look at my picture here, there's a vertical line on the bottom left that cuts up through the artwork. And there's also, in the bottom eighth of the painting, this ultramarine blue, this deeper blue that doesn't seem to fit the reflections. It almost dots onto the landscape. Now, that's the boat. That's the reflection of the boat being cast onto the water as we look out at the mountains. So, with that boat there, the element behind that was to show the feeling of your feet being at the foot of the mountains. You don't stand on the land, you're on the water, standing on the boat. And so that gives a subtle nod to you being a part of this environment, rather than saying, this is a place, you'll never get to be in this place, but here's how this place feels. It says instead, you're in this place, experience this place. Don't be sympathetic to the place, but have empathy with the place. Be in the place. This is the moment, how it felt for me. You can feel that same feeling. It doesn't gatekeep the feeling, it tries to share it with you. So that's why the Easter egg of the boat is added. Now, this painting session on day 2 is interesting because since the boat's moving, you'll notice the shadows. Currently they're hitting me. They'll move across the painting. And that's the beauty of outdoor painting. Now, I only learned about a week ago that outdoor painting actually has the name plein air painting. I'm glad there's already a term. I'm not using it. It sounds too pretentious or intense, and everyone understands what outdoor painting is. So when you are painting outdoors, those shadows change and the light changes. You can already see now, although those rich hues are more empowered, the startling light that the sun had in the earlier part of the day has faded off a little bit. So I can enjoy how those shadows dance and how they impact the work. You'll notice immediately that the deeper areas, those deep purples and blues, fall back even further. It almost feels like they're deep black chasms, like you're looking almost into a starscape rather than a landscape. That's the reason why we need to view this in different lighting conditions. One of the things I'll continue to do is build out the colours in between the white areas and the dark areas, and that'll smooth off that effect. But I don't want to lose it. I still want to keep a little bit of that, is this a starscape? Am I looking into a chasm? Is this deeper or more than a landscape? It wants to ask those questions, because I don't think anyone looks out at a place like this and just sees a landscape. I think we all, in our own way, see a little bit more, see something a little bit different. That's the human experience. And although this painting can't capture every experience of people, it might be able to capture an experience that was a little bit different. The view of an artist on a landscape. And this, along with the photography, along with the writings, along with the experience that the Doubtful Sound can offer, I think we can form more of a picture. So, do we call the piece of art a be-all, end-all solution to This Is the Doubtful Sound? No, that's not the purpose. But you can call it a puzzle piece in creating a map of everything the Doubtful Sound is. A puzzle piece, an alternate perspective, an ingredient in a cake that bakes the Doubtful Sound. I think that's the best way to put it. Now we're here. Going later in the day, I can finally start seeing in reality those deep, saturated blues coming out of the distant mountains and coming out of the water. Now, we've already built them into the picture, but it's satisfying to watch them pop in the environment. It just reminds me that yes, the deepest blue can pop out of these mountains, and you can just see it, look at it on the landscape there. It cuts into them. The contrasting difference, it's not black. It's this deep, luxurious blue. And at this point of the day, you can see that baby blue turning more into a cerulean in the sky there. The journey's almost come to its finish, and I'm really lucky because there's a point in it where we're going to do a minute of silence, and I had the artwork finished for this minute. It's a little pocket, still and silent, a dead end, with waterfalls trickling down in a place which, if I hadn't come on this boat, I would never, ever find. And in the stillness of the Doubtful Sound, got to see how we did. Did we capture it?